Good evening. What's going on there, folks? Earthmaster here, jumping in on this beautiful Tuesday evening. It is July 20th, 2021's the date. About 6:55 p.m. West Coast time here in California, where the wildfires never end. Absolutely horrible. A lot of wildfires out here today, folks. Not good. Well, it's been that way every summer. Seems like I'm ready to move. I'm not even joking. So let's talk about Yellowstone. What's going on out there in Yellowstone, folks? A lot of people, I've seen this all over the place in social media and whatnot. A lot of fear mongering going on out there in Yellowstone. A lot of people think maybe there's some agenda or some type of conspiracy to hide information from the public when it comes to Yellowstone National Park earthquake activity. But I'm here to tell you that it's not being hidden. In fact, anyone can access any of the information that you see in any of these videos at any given time. Earthquake swarms in Yellowstone National Park are common. In fact, this Yellowstone swarm that we've seen over the past few days is not even all that significant compared to past swarms over the past 10 years or so. But looking at today's activity, this is today's, okay, just refresh this. This is an overview of Yellowstone National Park with the caldera in the black line right there. Black outline. The Lake Yellowstone is in the blue, of course, for lakes, water, bodies of water. This is seismograph stations within the region. You can see this activity showing up significantly on all these stations situated right around the Yellowstone Lake area, which tells me that that's where the epicenter is for this activity, and that confirms it on the earthquake map on the USGS. So looking at least this activity today at Lake Butte, let's go ahead and check this out first. A pretty good burst of activity way earlier today, and some movement about a few hours ago. There's a pretty good handful of 20, 30 quakes or so within this region, possibly more. So we're still seeing the earthquake activity continue, but not as in abundance as what we had seen the prior days. And again, that activity is probably below. Looking at some of these seismograph stations and looking at the signature that these produce at distance stations tells me that these are probably below 2.5. Okay, I've been looking at these graphs for many years, and not only these graphs but other graphs as well. I can get a pretty good indication of what these earthquakes potential magnitudes are at distant stations. Now, looking over here towards the northwest corner of the park, seeing some weird activity going on there. No doubt. Also picking it up here on Purple Mountain. Looks like over the last hour or so showing up down here around Mount Sheridan, Flag Ranch area as well. So I'm going to pull up. I don't have it on screen here, but I'm going to look real quick because I have a awesome radar feature here on my phone that I use. It's called Radar Scope, and there is a massive amount of thunderstorm activity once again right around the Yellowstone area. So what we're seeing here, once again, the Pitchstone Plateau, see all this activity right here? If there wasn't earthquake, or if there wasn't thunderstorm activity around this region, I would think, man, there's something brewing. Yellowstone's not looking good. There's some type of movement underneath the ground. But this is pure general thunderstorm activity being picked up on these seismograph stations, including up here. Right around this area, and it's plain as day on radar, and it's significant. There's quite a bit of lightning strikes taking place in the region of Yellowstone National Park. And hold on one second here, folks. Hold on one second. What do we got here? So I'm going to pull this up just for the heck of it, okay? Just for the heck of it, let's go ahead and pop this up here. See if I can get this to hold on one second. Let's see here. Window capture. I think, is this it? There we go. All right. Had to do a little bit of maneuvering around. So let's go ahead and check out. Let's see where we're at up here. Let's back out of the map a little bit. Let's see if I can get these to key up here. We got Idaho, obviously right in the outline. Some of this activity here Yellowstone National Park, Lake Yellowstone. I'm going to have to add the base reflectivity a little bit. Unfortunately, this program does not show lightning strikes. I don't have it on here, but I'm looking at a different weather model on my phone, and there's lightning strikes all throughout this region right here, including right over Yellowstone Lake Yellowstone right there. So that's the signature of storms that we're seeing showing up on the seismograph stations there at Yellowstone National Park. Get this keyed up here. Alrighty. So, you know, it's been happening daily. There's a lot of monsoonal moisture coming up from the south. They're kicking off these signatures, and they come and go. But I want everyone to know that's exactly what it is. So I'll stop repeating myself, but I like to point that out. This is not new movement. Although over here, it is. There's still continued earthquake activity taking place underneath Yellowstone Lake Yellowstone area. So there's a lot of information that I really don't agree with when it comes to USGS on some of their preliminary earthquake reports, and kind of taking their time on issuing earthquake data when stuff happens. Like Yellowstone National Park, for example, right? There's a lot of earthquakes showing up on the map, but over here on their map, you go to all magnitudes here, well, it looks like they've added a few. Okay, there's a few on there, but they add them on occasion. Like yesterday, nothing was listed over here. So the activity listed today, it looks like it was. There's about 15 earthquakes, all under, what did I say, 2.5? Looks like they're all under about 2.0, or just one being a 1.8. So yeah, about 18. I think there's a little bit more, though. Looking at those maps, I believe there's a little bit more in earthquake activity there, but that's okay. At least they're getting them. So a little bit of information page here on Yellowstone. This publication that the USGS puts out is a awesome question and answer type page. If you want to know about Yellowstone, if you want to know details about when the last eruption was, or what may happen prior to an eruption, this page right here is an excellent page by the USGS. And that's about as much as I'm going to praise them. So, when was the last time there was volcanism at Yellowstone National Park? About 70,000 years ago. Lava flows. Now, this was not a full-blown major global climate change type event. They happen actually quite often. How much volcanic activity has there been at Yellowstone since the most recent giant eruption? Since the most recent giant caldera forming eruption 640,000 years ago, approximately 80 relatively non-explosive eruptions have occurred. It includes like lava flows and stuff like that, but not full-blown caldera eruptions. Some of the eruptions were approximately the size of the devastating 1991 Pinatubo eruption in the Philippines, and several were much larger. The most recent volcanic eruption at Yellowstone, a lava flow on the Pitchstone Plateau, occurred about 70,000 years ago. So that's a lot of time that has passed over a hot spot, right? Hot spot, Yellowstone, that is. How often do volcanic eruptions occur at Yellowstone? 3 extremely large explosive eruptions have occurred in the past 2.1 million years, with a recurrence interval of about 600,000 to 800,000 years. Let's see, about 600, the most recent, yeah, there we go, 70,000 is the year. Not year, but the times past. I'm not going to go through all this, folks, but I am going to provide you guys with a link to go check this out yourself. Here's a really cool map. When I was going to Yellowstone National Park earlier last year, I traveled through this area of Idaho, and I was amazed at the flatness of the land out there, but with the mountains to the west and to the northwest and then southeast. And that shows you how the North American plate has slid over this hot spot activity, which is Yellowstone. Yellowstone is a hot spot. It's not a single volcano, but a hot spot area that the North American plate travels over. But the further back you go in time, the further southwest it was, in Idaho, parts of Nevada. I mean, it's crazy. In the parts of Oregon as well. Seeing that landscape out there, thinking, man, this is where Yellowstone used to be. This is where the caldera used to be. So now we're situated where we're at, up here in northwestern Wyoming. And eventually, it's possible, could go way up into Montana and further, further up there. But that's a really cool map to look at, and to drive through is even more humbling. Here's a little bit of activity when it comes to the Yellowstone ashfall area. Now, Long Valley sits down here, Southern California. It's kind of the outlined area right here in the brown dots, so to speak, I think, right? Right around the brown dots area. Yellowstone is probably about the most effective area when it comes to ashfall, but this is also very dependent on weather trends, which way the upper level winds are blowing. A lot of times you got high pressure systems over here along the northern California coast, and it pushes the jet stream way up to the north into Canada. So this is just kind of a rough estimate, they think anyway, where the ashfall boundaries are. But I think if Yellowstone were to blow in a full-blown major type event, ashfall would not be the main concern. It would be global climate change on the colder side, so to speak, blocking out sun and ultimately affecting the agricultural areas that we are very dependent on food and and stuff like that. So it would be bad. But I don't think we're headed towards that region, folks. Was there anything else on that map I wanted to cover? Let's see here. We've heard many statements that Yellowstone is overdue. I heard it. I watched a couple videos today. I'm kind of sickened by a couple of them. There's no way. I don't think we're ready to see this thing blow. I'll explain that here in a second. As a major eruption every 600,000 years on average. And since that eruption, it was 631,000 years ago. In a word, no. In 2 words, no way. In 3 words, not even close. Yellowstone doesn't work that way. And then goes on and on to explain it. I don't want to explain this and read this long summary about it. But the USGS has a wide wealth of information on Yellowstone and how it works and the fault systems that take place in this area, folks. Getting back to what I believe we would see before a major eruption, not only major earthquake activity, but I'm talking about we'd probably be looking at 5s and 6s magnitudes happening on a regular interval, probably for days or weeks or months. The pressure, I think, would continue to build, and we would see uplift of the caldera on the GPS stations, which we can monitor. The public can monitor anytime they want. But if that thing were to blow, if Yellowstone were to blow in a major large-scale eruption, debris could be launched as high as 14 miles into the air. The lava would overtake anything within pretty much a 40-mile radius from the epicenter, burning everything in its path. It would not be a good day to be in northwestern Wyoming or parts of Idaho. Debris from the lava exploding from the ground would be shot into the air with more than 600 square miles of material being ejected into the sky, creating an umbrella cloud and pretty much darkening the skies over North America. There's a website right here. This is the website to monitor GPS movement. They have stations located and positioned all over the place, including areas along San Andreas Fault, to help geologists and scientists and seismologists monitor pressure buildup, fault buildup, stress buildup along the fault systems of the San Andreas Fault. Any one of these are accessible by the public, not just me, but by anybody. I'll leave this in the link below for you guys to check out. All you got to do is click on a icon. But ironically, it's kind of odd. I'm going to admit this is kind of odd that the stations around Yellowstone National Park are non operational right now, right where the swarming's taking place. And you go to Lake Yellowstone there, it's installed operable, but when you go to click on it, we're looking at current status as failure, and it's been that way for a couple days. So kind of odd. From here, though, you can see the general activity of the GPS height movement. This is the uplift in the Caldera region. In this specific area of Yellowstone, you can see 2008, back when we had that significant swarming in Yellowstone. We're talking about lots of 3s, lots of 2s. In the end of December, there's some major uplift, upswelling, if you will, of the caldera. Kind of scary, right? That was kind of scary, and that was real. But since then, we've seen a little die down. At least 2020. I don't see any relevant information for 2021, but I've seen a general decline. But still kind of watching that. Still kind of watching this. So these 3 stations around Yellowstone Lake, non-operational. So to see some activity, we have to at least look maybe over here at WLWY station. That's a GPS monitoring station that measures basically the same thing, uplift, movement from the northeast, whatever. And this still goes back. It looks like it covers almost the current date, close to it. You can see the general uplift, once again, the height in the millimeter department of uplift. Once again, I'd like to see some extreme current data, which I'm not for sure how to monitor that. But as far as the uplift goes, I just don't see any, and I think that's what we would be looking at, folks, for a major impending eruption of Yellowstone. And that's just my opinion, my observations, and you can take it how you want. There's a lot of other stations that go against what I'm saying, and I try to back up what I'm saying with obvious data, obvious swarms that we've seen over the years. Swarms are common. They're very common in Yellowstone National Park. If we were seeing 4s and 5s all throughout the park with a major uplift around a certain area of the caldera, then I'd be saying, okay, I'd be saying a different story. But we're not looking at that, and that's the truth. That's the facts. But it is kind of cool to watch, no doubt. It's a super volcano, and the potential of what it could do is very damaging to us humans here on Earth. Let's move on real quick. I think that's about all I wanted to cover on Yellowstone National Park. Let's go ahead and check out seismic activity along the west coast. Let's go to bring down the all magnitudes here. A little bit of movement out here just within the recent hour. 2.7 striking out there at southeast of Bayside, California, inland, down dip downstream, pretty deep, 24 kilometers below surface, southeast of Eureka area. Beautiful mountainous area up there, and trees, lots of redwoods and whatnot. I love that area. Unfortunately, hopefully the fires stay away from that area. Further down south, a little bit of movement east of Salinas. It's movement along the creeping section of the San Andreas Fault, this plate boundary. Also down south here in the San Jacinto Fault area and the Eleanor's Fault, seeing a little bit of microquake activity. Salton Sea, seen some earthquake activity, but no major swarming, just a couple handful of microquakes within the regions of the swarms that we've seen over the past couple months, but no major swarm outbreak today. But that could always change. You never know. It's something to keep an eye on. Ridgecrest, the fracture zone from the couple years ago of the July earthquakes. Still seeing some movement there with the microquakes. Also in the Antelope Valley area. Things calming down, though, in the Antelope Valley area. Only about 37 earthquakes over the last 24 hours compared to, I think it was 90 or 100 last night, and even more the night before. The Mina, Nevada area seeing some fracture aftershocks as well from their earthquake, I think last year, that 6-pointer that struck out there. Movement along the Intermountain West region up through Idaho, some microquake activity, and of course the Yellowstone movement. Pacific Northwest, Strait of Juan de Fuca, some movement up here, kind of deep, 1.1. Like I say, there's a lot of deep movement along the Cascadia lately. That's something I think, if anything, out of everything catastrophic that we're looking at, as far as Yellowstone, New Madrid, an asteroid attack, I think the Cascadia is our main enemy at the moment when it comes to possibly producing the next catastrophe here for mankind. It's just something to watch, folks. Speaking of that, let's go ahead and check out the tremor map in the Pacific Northwest of the tremor. I haven't looked at it yet. There we go. Some movement along the southern end of the Cascadia subduction zone. 165 epicenters. That kind of coincides with the, let's go back over here to Northern California. The map kind of coincides with what we're seeing up here in Eureka, right? 24 kilometers. Most tremor occurs about 25, 35 kilometers down dip, downstream of this subduction zone here. Down dip, downstream, underneath here, underneath the surface. Further inland you go, the further deep you go for the earthquakes at the subduction zone. 2.7, 24 kilometers, that's kind of within that area of the tremor activity. Even though it's a little bit further here to the west, you got to think of it in this light. With this area slipping, I believe ultimately we're looking at back building and pressure up here. So a little bit of further back building, surface quaking registering as a sufficient magnitude. Here's the M energies being released over here. You can see the magnitude levels here. A little bit different than earthquakes. These are kind of slow earthquakes taking place, vibrational type quakes between the two plates, North American and Juan de Fuca plate. But sometimes you get enough build-up pressure that will release a earthquake of a little bit larger magnitude that registers as an earthquake, and that's kind of what we've seen with that 2.7 there, a little bit back upstream, 24 kilometers. But overall, I think heightened earthquake activity ramping up here and building continuously along the Cascadia subduction zone. That's kind of why I say this is the monster to watch. What else we got? Alaska kind of looking average for their earthquake activity. Not a whole lot going on along the Pacific Rim of Fire. Some movement, but nothing major. It just looks like your typical earthquake activity along Solomon Islands area, also around the New Zealand area as well. Just some average earthquake activity taking place around that area. What do we got here? Pakistan seeing 5.1 shaking the area out there. A little bit further south here, a little 4.1, and some movement around the Mediterranean Sea area. A couple 4s east, right around the Greece area. South America, what do we got going on down here? Into the subduction zone of the Peru-Chile Trench. Seen some deeper movement as well, 125 kilometers. And a little earthquake, 4.2 within the last hour, 87 kilometers for that. Got to remember, these deeper earthquakes play a major role in buildup of stress up here along the subduction zone. When you get earthquakes down dip downstream, it doesn't relieve the pressure that's going on up here. I think, if anything, we're looking at continued buildup of pressure, very similar to what's going on up here in the Pacific Northwest, where the next mega quake will happen, at least in this area. What else we got here? I think that's about it, folks. So I will include the links to these awesome web pages that monitor GPS motion and movement. It's really cool to check out. I suggest you check it out if you want to see movement anywhere. I'm not going to go through all these stations, but you can check out northeast-south movement along a specific area, along the who knows what, along the San Andreas Fault, where it shows a tremendous amount of northward movement, which would explain the the movement of the plates there along the North American and Pacific plate. But it's cool. It's really awesome. So check it out. Links will be provided in the description below. So have a good night, folks. I'm gonna go out and barbecue. I know I barbecue every single night, but I can't help it. It's something I like to do, and that's kind of how I cook my dinner. Last night I had some awesome stew, and I had a viewer, an awesome fan of mine, send me some stew materials, and I appreciate that. It was pretty awesome. Anyway, we're going to jump off here, folks. Have a good night. Stay safe out there. And, of course, always have an earthquake plan. Decals are once again in the mail. I'm sending out a huge batch tomorrow as well. So just letting you know, if you haven't received yours and you requested yours, they are coming this week. Have a good night, folks. Chat to you a little bit later. Stay safe.